In order to know where we are now, or to determine where we'd like to go in the future, we have to have a clear understanding of how the organization exactly is able to conduct some sort of sequence of activities in order to create value. This is where process modeling comes into play, illustrating how work is completed and providing a framework for conducting additional process analysis to determine where improvements or additions or revisions to existing processes might need to take place in order for us to achieve our goals. Process models may be tailored to display different levels of detail and different scopes depending on the type of analysis we're undertaking or the type of stakeholders that we might be communicating with and trying to convey information about a process to. Process models may refer to other broader or more specific process models as well, giving us the ability to be more or less granular in our approach and show where the handoff of data or value from one process to another might also take place. We can use process modeling to either describe existing present processes or to define what our desired future states might look like. These can refer to processes that we might make modifications to, or that might be entirely new processes necessary in order to generate the value that our change initiative envisions. A variety of different frameworks and notation styles may be leveraged for process modeling, many of which are specific to individual types of work or specific industries. While we'll show some general examples in this course of how process models work, the precise notation you might rely on, such as the shapes, types of arrows, and other notation that might be used to display how various activities interrelate to one another, may vary based on the type of work that you undertake. One example of the variations you could see here would be the use of different swim lanes or partitions that indicate where largely separate processes interact. Regardless of the notation that's used or how complex a process model might be, there are a few key elements that we can expect to see in any defined process model. First, there must be activities, which are tasks or set of tasks that encompass a portion of the broader business process. After all, the process itself is what we're looking at in a broad scope, but a variety of different steps might be involved inside of that individual process. Each of these would be activities. Directional flow is also important to notate, indicating the sequence of a workflow and the passage of time taking place. Links show how processes connect across swim lanes, partitions, or other gaps. These may be areas where particular pieces of data might be handed off, or where work might transfer from one team to another. Events are moments or triggers that either start, stop, pause, or cause changes in a process to take place. Examples here could be the end of a phase of development or finding ourselves in a quality assurance or quality control sort of process where we either approve or reject a piece of work as meeting our standards or not. Decision points are those points at which the illustrated process flow either diverges or perhaps merges with another one. These are different paths that we can take, whether we choose to go in one direction or another based on a number of different options, priorities, how a customer specifically orders a product from us, and so forth. Finally, roles are those types of persons or groups that are related to the process in question. These could be stakeholder groups that interact with our process or that are essential to our process being completed. Let's take a look at an example. Let's say that we offer home insurance and recently a large storm has blown through a city with several customers of our home insurance product. In this case, we would start off this process by receiving a call from one of the homeowners who suffered some damage from the storm passing through their town. We would work to determine what their claim eligibility would be and record claim details. Here, we'd make sure that we notate the information for the claimant, that they in fact have a policy with us and that it is up to date and active. And then we would begin to receive some of the information related to what went wrong and what requires our help. From there, we would look to find open times for a claim adjuster, given that we need someone on the ground to verify and document the damage that's occurred to the property. This would lead us to trying to schedule out a matching time between our customer and one of our various claims adjusters. If we are successful in this regard, we could move forward with scheduling an appointment, which would allow us to then push through the completion of this process into another process entirely. During this separate process, a claim adjuster would receive this appointment information and begin a different process that we could show in an entirely different process model, should we choose. If we are unsuccessful in scheduling our claim adjuster to come out in the first place, we can either continue our search, working with the customer to find another time that might make sense, in which case we would repeat back to the process until we are able to find a match, or if we are unable to find any sort of resolution to this particular scheduling issue, we can simply save the claim until we hear back from the customer with additional availability, or we can reach back out to them with some sort of standby time for a claim adjuster to come out. In either case, we would see the process end at this point. A few key things that we can see along the way here. In blue, we have a variety of different activities linked with blue arrows. In the magenta diamond shapes, we see several different potential decision points emerging. These are not decision points in the traditional nature of our individual within the process determining yes or no based on merits of their own judgment, but rather whether or not time is simply available. This objective truth can lead us through one path or another of this particular process. We see with the circles how there are links here to other processes as well, where we can learn more about what a claim adjuster might do by referring to another process model. And critically, this process has a clear start and end. We understand who's involved, what value is meant to be offered by the process, how the process currently functions, and where a variety of junctures and intersections with either decision points or other processes might exist. Process models and flowcharts are broadly understood and useful for conveying information to stakeholders. The level of detail and scope that's shown can be tailored to stakeholder groups as well. The example we saw a moment ago might be perfectly fit to show to a high-level executive in the company when discussing current processes, but we might wish for something much more granular when it comes to those frontline workers in charge of scheduling out our claim adjusters appearing to process claims. They may need much more information about the specific steps used to work within the scheduling program and to confirm that appointment times will in fact be valid for both parties. Just because that information doesn't appear here does not mean that it could not appear and be useful in a more detailed version of this process model for different stakeholders. Process models are prone to becoming too complex if the scope of them shown isn't carefully managed, though. And so as we add these additional details, we should be mindful not to allow the stakeholders who could benefit from them to get mired down in details that are either unnecessary or make it difficult to understand the value or flow of the process that we are documenting. And process models may not be useful in identifying problems if we construct them too broadly. After all, root cause analysis and other kinds of fault-finding missions that we might go on can be heavily impaired if we don't have the necessary detail to understand where actual friction or breakage in our processes might exist. So achieving this sweet spot of not having too much information, but making sure that we have sufficient information for our analysis needs should always be a top-of-mind goal when modeling our processes.